Big news out of South Bend on Tuesday. CJ Carr is Notre Dame's starting quarterback, the grandson of former Michigan coach Lloyd Carr. He redshirted last year. He was a big-time recruit. Ari, the assumption most of the offseason was that CJ Carr was going to be the starter at Notre Dame. It felt like over the last month or so, there was a push by Kenny Minchey, who likely will be the backup this season. He's a redshirt sophomore from Nashville. I don't think this was a smokescreen. I think Marcus Freeman had a difficult choice to make, but has decided on CJ Carr, and CJ Carr is going to be the guy when the Fighting Irish open the season at Miami on August 31st.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When's the last time a highly rated natural incumbent that we all assumed would win a job engaged in a battle in fall camp and lost?
I don't remember it. I know some folks on Twitter got you with the Cal quarterback decision, but that wasn't the same thing because that was Devin Brown, the Ohio State transfer, versus the freshman whose name I will badly mispronounce, and the freshman won.
And like some people said, Cardale Jones in 15, also not.
It's not the same thing.
Example. So like we're having a hard time with it, and I think that just goes to show you that my theory of follow what the coaches do, not what they say, is pretty foolproof.
Can I give you one? It happened today, but not in college football. It was Daniel Jones being chosen over Anthony Richardson as the Colts starter. But that, honestly, like I don't remember a college football situation like that.
And does that count? Because Anthony Richardson's been bad.
He's been bad, but he was their first rounder.
Yeah, he was their first rounder.
Like, Daniel Jones was also a first rounder, but he was the Giants' first rounder years ago.
But he also was somebody who had starting experience before and didn't play well. Like
it's right. Different. There's not really a comparison in college football. Like I'll give you one where we thought something was going to happen and it didn't. When Jacob Coker transferred to Alabama from Florida State, because remember, Coker and Jameis Winston were behind EJ Manuel. Winston wins the job. It's very clear Winston's going to be, the quarterback for 2013 and 2014. So Coker transfers to Alabama after he graduates, and he's there in 2014, and he doesn't win the job. Blake Sims wins the job. But that was more of just a wide open quarterback competition than one we expected to win versus.
Yeah, like what I'm looking for is like Dante Moore doesn't win the job.
Yeah.
That type of deal. And he hasn't officially been named the starter.
Producer
either, right?
River asked if the Jalen Hurts situation counts. So that would be 2016 Alabama. That was when Blake Barnett started the USC game. And then they brought Jalen Hurts in the first quarter, and he never lost the job again that season. That I don't think that counts either, because I think that was a pretty wide open competition as well. Blake Barnett, I believe Cooper Bateman, and
the person winning the job and losing it in the season is not the same circumstance. I mean, in a battle where you're doing it in camp with your coaches who have a plan for the program, who you have non-contact jerseys on and are in a competition that you lost. Like we do this every single year. Of here are the quarterback competitions. What do we think of them? Is it possible that they win? And it never happens, dude. It never happens. Yeah. That doesn't mean like CJ Carr might lose his job this year if Minchey is as good as people are saying he is. And we can go back to Notre Dame now because it sounds like this one was the closest of all of them.
I don't think the Ohio State one was this close. I know that there was some leaking Keenholz smoke there toward the middle of camp, but it wasn't like. You were hearing that Minchey and Carr were kind of neck and neck, it felt like. Yeah,
almost hearing behind the scenes that Minchey would, be a really good choice. Like it's so. And now it brings me to my next question, Andy, because, we have to talk about what this means for Notre Dame. But what does it mean for college football is more interesting to the general audience, too, of like, do salaries and investment now play a part in college position battle decisions than ever before? Because like in the NFL, it happens all the time, right? You're paying somebody X number of dollars, they have to play. Is that going to start happening? Because like that's the biggest difference too. In college, you pay more money for speculative assets than you do in the NFL. In the NFL, when you get a second contract, you know what you're paying for. In college, you're paying a lot of money for players that haven't fully developed yet, so you're not quite sure what you're paying for. do you think that we will see, and this isn't an implication that CJ Carr is not ready or that he isn't the right decision. I'm just thinking abstractly here that, like, if you overpay or pay a player a lot of money in NIL and they turn out to not be the best or 10% worse than somebody that might be under the radar, do you have to have ROI enough from those NIL investments to play the person? Like, how much better, excuse me, did Menchie have to be to win the job? 1% or 10%?
It's a good question. I would only think it's a few percent, because at the end of the day, all the fans paying the money want is to win. They don't really care who they're paying the money to, as long as the person wins. So, like, I was actually talking about this with a parent of a quarterback at another school the other day, and this quarterback is not the higher paid one, but may at some point be the better choice than the higher paid one. And my thinking was, the coach of that school, their job relies on winning. They're ultimately going to pick the one they think gives them the best chance to win. And, with CJ Carr,
do you think they do that in the NFL all the time? Do you think that the person that gives, because, like, honestly, in my time as a beat writer, I saw instances of players playing that weren't the best choice when it was the opposite, when it was a senior who had paid his dues,
right,
stayed in the program.
Well, you asked me a question years ago. I believe it was you, or maybe it was somebody else on the Ohio State beat, when you were a beat writer and I was working at SI, and we were covering the Heisman, and you said, "What's the difference between Urban Meyer and Nick Saban?" And I said, Nick Saban would have benched JT Barrett.
Yeah, that wasn't me, because I've never covered a Heisman ceremony before, believe it or not. But
okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, Urban Meyer is viewed as somebody who is ruthless or was ruthless in a way. And I think he was in his own way, like not knowing half the names of the freshmen on his team. But, like, at the same time, like, was, I think even steadfastly loyal to assistants and players who had played a lot under him when, there were players that could have played that were better and younger. But, this isn't an Urban Meyer conversation. This is a CJ Carr conversation. And it's just my number one point here isn't necessarily, one or the other, but do you think that, how often do you think players who shouldn't have been on the field were on the field in the past? And do you think the instance of that will increase into the future?
I think the person making the more money is going to get the benefit of the doubt, but I don't think it's going to be prohibitive. And we've seen it, like in the NFL, we've seen it. Remember the Seahawks signed Matt Flynn to a fairly big free agent deal. They drafted Russell Wilson the same year. They started Russell Wilson because he was a better choice. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, you're still trying to win. Now, what does this mean for Notre Dame specifically? I remember sitting there watching warm-ups for the national title game. And obviously, CJ Carr wasn't going to play. Riley Leonard was the starter. Steve Angeli was the backup, very established. But watching CJ Carr throw the ball, I was talking to Mike Golick Jr., former Notre Dame player. We were both standing there, and he was looking at it the same thing I was, and we're like, wow, the offense is going to look different if this is the starter next year, because CJ Carr has a very big arm, a much better arm than Sam Hartman had or that Riley Leonard had. So if you are Jaden Greathouse, if you're Jordan Faison, if you're Malachi Fields, the transfer from Virginia that they're excited about, or Will Pauling, the transfer from Wisconsin, who got named a captain the other day, like, if you're one of those guys, I think you're pretty pumped at this result, because this is a dude who can push the ball down the field in ways that Notre Dame probably couldn't do last year.
Yeah. And the throw that they showed from the spring game too, that touchdown pass he had, I mean, like, I don't think there's any question he can throw the ball. The question is whether or not he's incrementally or vastly better than Menchie.
Right. But here's the thing. If you're looking at skill sets, Menchie's probably the better athlete. Menchie's probably the better runner. So that's more similar to the Riley Leonard situation last year, which obviously was very successful for them. But remember this. Notre Dame has probably the best offensive line in college football. They have the best back in college football in Jeremiah Love. Of all the schools, they're the one that really doesn't need much in the run game from the quarterback. So you can favor the guy who has the stronger arm because you probably don't really need him to do much on the ground.
Yeah. This might be a stupid question because I have zero ability to recall anything, but when's the last time a team won the national title with a quarterback who couldn't run at all?
Mac Jones?
Was it Mac Jones?
I mean, and that's maybe not fair to Mac because we've seen Mac scramble for a first down every once in a while.
No, I know, but scrambling for a first down every once in a while isn't what I'm asking. So I think that's the right answer. I mean, because Trevor Lawrence ran well.
And Stetson Bennett ran very well.
Did Tua Tagovailoa run?
Tua was not a good runner at all.
So that was
but he didn't win a national
example.
title as a starter. I mean, he won as the backup who came into the game.
Yeah, he won. He played for a half.
Yeah, very important half. But yes,
but the person who he replaced was a pure runner,
a spectacular runner. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It just
Joe Burrow was a really good runner too. Like that.
Every few years, there's like a new cycle of how to view what you need out of the quarterback position to win a title. Like when Trevor Lawrence,
I don't know that CJ Carr is a complete statue either.
Yeah, that's not the implication.
He can't do backflips like Kenny Minchie can.
Let's put it this way: if CJ Carr was a starter, Notre Dame's first drive in the national championship game looks a lot different. Okay,
right. It would not have been Riley Leonard left and Riley Leonard right,
but. You always play this game like when Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence and, those big time NFL quarterbacks were existing. Like the question in like 2015, 16, 17 was, do you need to have a bona fide top 15 NFL draft pick for a quarterback to win the national title? And I thought it was a fair question at the time. Then it kind of morphed and it was like, do you need a quarterback who can run a little bit? I think if you ask Ohio State fans right now, if they feel like they need a runner, I mean, their frustration with Kyle McCord 2 years ago was in large part because he couldn't escape pressure or couldn't.
And Will Howard, like the win at Penn State last year was a good example. Like Will Howard's legs.
Will Howard's very
full at times for them.
And I'm on high alert to see too. And it might not matter because Ohio State's got a pretty good offensive line and some pretty good receivers. But like if any of the frustration of like we can't do anything if we can't run with the quarterback, like if the frustration there at Notre Dame and Ohio State set in, but. This is true to form for our podcast. I know we've kind of been all over the place with big picture stuff. Do you like the move? That they did it, August 19th? Like, is this functional to you? Are you,
Yeah, you need to know who whenever it is that you turn the page to your preparation for the first game, which I imagine is coming later this week or will come maybe even today at practice. If your defensive scout team is going to start running Notre Dame's stuff or start running Miami's stuff, that's when you need to know who your number one guy is. Have that person taking the snaps with the ones and give them the most work against the team they're going to see. And so I do think this is when you need to do it. And it's one of those things where, you don't sit there and hide it because if you like the players are going to see who takes all the snaps with the ones and it's going to get out. So you just announce it. And look, it doesn't mean it's permanent. Doesn't mean it's forever.
I'm happy you said
they'll
that.
Probably put in Minchie and try him.
I'm happy you said that. Of all the quarterbacks who are winning or going to win battles, which ones have the shortest leash into the season, I think is very fascinating discussion. And it seems to me that maybe Carr might, based on what we've heard.
Maybe.
Right?
And listen, Miami's defense is going to be completely different than Miami's defense last year. So
better be.
Whatever film they have, like they'll be watching Minnesota's defense because Corey Heatherman, the DC, came from there. And then they'll be watching all kinds of different film to get a sense of Miami's personnel because like their D linemen, pretty much homegrown, but linebackers and guys in the secondary, there's a lot of transfers. Yeah. So they've got to kind of figure out what this is all going to look like.
This is an interesting game because my initial thought process was Miami's defense stinks, or it was one of the worst defenses in the country last year. How much better could it possibly be in 1 year? And I think that
considerably.
I kind of view it the way that USC was last year. Like that's the type of defense I'm expecting, like a team that doesn't have a truly awful defense, but not one that's probably going to win you games or put your team on its back. Is that a fair expectation? And is that good enough to beat Notre Dame? Like that.
That's the thing. I don't know because
the defensive line.
I think Notre Dame's offensive line is so good that it erases a lot of doubts. And when we talk about this all the time on the show, it raises your ceiling. It just it makes you a higher functioning offense no matter what. And I think that's going to make it easier. It wouldn't matter if it was CJ Carr or Kenny Menchie. It's going to make it easier to have a first-time starter when they're playing behind people that you are very confident can protect them.
Yeah. Another one down. I don't know. We're waiting on Dante Moore. Who else are we waiting on?
Are we waiting on Dante? I don't know. I think Dan Lanning's just not going to say it.
I
think we all know
on Twitter that they haven't announced it yet. I didn't know what that meant, but
yeah. Unless they're like, maybe they just drop an Austin Novosad graphic on us.
I don't know. I don't know.
Bear Bachmeier is your starter at BYU. He's going to wear number 47. So
you want to talk about that for a second? Because that's
not
just
in this Notre Dame CJ Carr video, but we can talk about that later on our show, which you can watch, everybody. If you've enjoyed this breakdown of the Notre Dame quarterback situation, we are on. The videos drop 3 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. It'll be Monday through Thursday starting next week because we obviously take Friday off because we do a bonanza of a show on Saturday nights after the games. But 3 p.m. Eastern time is when the videos drop on the On3 Sports channel. When they drop, you can watch them in their entirety on demand anytime. And of course, all of our full shows are distributed in podcast form. So please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And this is going to be an incredibly fun college football season. Notre Dame, Miami, we know one more detail about it. All the more reason to get excited. We'll talk to you again soon.